It is a pleasure to zoom in with ice sculptress, incredible baker of souffles, of apple pies, if I remember correctly, trapeze artist, amazing stand-up, and tireless crusader for women's rights, Lizz Winstead.
Yay!
Thanks for remembering my baking skills, Laura, because it's literally the thing I'm the most proud of.
I remember you came over, you were living on like 20th Street, I think. I was on 17th, and you would come over with treats.
Yeah.
Baked goods.
I did that
Or were we on 28th?
I was on 26th, 22nd, 21st, and 20th. Before then, I made it down to the Village and finally Brooklyn.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But what would you bake? I did not know that Lizz Winstead was a baker.
She's incredible.
What's your forte?
I bake anything from pies to cookies. I can make souffles. I can make cakes. But I love...
She's the pride of Minnesota.
Pride of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can whip up some rhubarb. That's like the state weed of Minnesota.
So, but you're phoning in from Minnesota today, correct?
I am phoning in from the great state of Minnesota.
How are things? Did you watch the State of the Union? Of course you did.
I did. And Biden, he didn't screw up. I feel like, except for calling human beings illegals, which wasn't great. And he didn't say the word abortion when he was talking about abortion. So that's always disappointing.
Yeah. Liz, how do you keep sane and everything with all the work you do with fighting for, women's rights, reproductive rights? Like, how do you not get down about just all this shit that you're up against? Like, that it changes constantly.
I know. I think the honest to God thing is, when I kind of did this shift, some balloons just flew up. I don't know what that was.
I just saw them too.
I kind of did
it was when things got real serious. The balloon showed.
Is that yours?
I don't know.
Where are the balloons
I just
coming
felt like that. The balloons start flying up.
Oh wait, Roe v. Wade has just been codified.
Wow!
I can't believe it.
Released.
No, I honestly,
That's the balloons.
I honestly think that actually doing the work is what keeps me sane. Taking in the information with no outlet. I honestly don't know how human beings read the news without actually being able to act on it. And I think for me, knowing that I am such a great consumer of news, that I had to add the component of activism into my life. Otherwise, I would feel really hopeless. And, with the work that we do at Abortion Access Front, so much of it is on the ground, working with the providers and the activists in these hard hit states. And every time you meet somebody or put a face to why you care, you think of that face. And every day I wake up and I'm like, I am doing this for the folks in Alabama and Oklahoma and Texas and Mississippi. And I think that's how I do it. And so I highly encourage you guys, everyone, carve out some time to come out with us, because it's kind of life-changing.
And you mentioned Abortion Access Front, which is a huge organization. Y'all did a show and a fundraiser and stuff in Texas, but there was a national, what was it? V to Shining V. Yeah. So I feel like you guys are approachable as an organization to get involved, or at least, because I'm also a huge consumer of news. Mine's more just addicted to the format, and it's kind of a joke to me, but I watch news all the time. Are you constantly plugged into what is being broadcast?
I am plugged in, and I'm also plugged into the shit news, right? So I'm watching all the news because I kind of want to see what the hot takes are that are being offered up to people on every spectrum. And then I also read the news as well. And so, I bring it in a lot. And I think that one of the things that I think I do get the most annoyed with in reading the news and taking in the news is how much of it is this political horse race that talks about the human condition as how it will benefit one political party or another, rather than talking about these different conditions as human beings going through shit and how people should fix it. And I'm always, that's when I shake my fist at Cloud, like an old man, because it's just like, there's never humanity, there's never there's never the humanity, so sometimes I feel like they just interview these prognosticators and these pundits instead of like the real world people who are having the experiences that are a result of the shitty things that these people are doing. Because once you add humanity, like you can look away, but you can't unsee the person who's being affected by the policies.
Right.
I always think too, like the one thing, because I've been thinking about you and your work and just all of it, how women's rights are being taken away gradually. It's like the one thing that all religions have in common is downgrading women. Like women are here to procreate and serve men. And that's with every religion. We're second class. We're, and what kills me is like when women aren't pro women, and it's usually because of religion.
Yeah. And I think that we're at a point now where it's gotten to these next level places that we're going. And I think like when people ask me like, what do you think the most horrible abortion bans are? I sort of surprise them when I always say it's the waiting periods. And the reason I say that is when you say that society has decided that women need to wait 24, 48 hours before they can have their abortion, that's not just about abortion. That's deciding that there is a competency with which we don't trust women to make decisions. And that if we solidify that as a society, then we're saying, oh, I don't really know if I can trust you to make like fast decisions running my bank or, being a doctor. And it devalues us as competent. And then on top of it, when now you start talking about punishing women who've had abortions and calling them like murderous and really throwing that murder shit around, now you got a situation where you're murderous incompetence, and that means we need to take the whole of your decision making away.
Oh, it's so fucking awful. And it's like when you step outside of it like that, a person can't make a decision about their own body, without a bunch of old white guys weighing in. It's disgusting. Yeah. I mean, I've had an abortion. And my joke is that I had an abortion, and it's true what they say. It's hard to outlive your kids. But but Liz, I was lucky when I had mine. I did it at the OBGYN. So, and it wasn't. I knew instantly I was pregnant or something was wrong because I felt like I'd been kicked in the back by a horse. It was like in the lower back. It was horrible. And the pregnancy was terminated the same day that the doctor also delivered a baby. The same OBGYN. And so, I know we were saying like in medical circles, that's called the leave a penny, take a penny. But I keep working in my fucking bits. No, but really, it wasn't a big deal to get it. It wasn't a big deal. It was like probably I was like 3 weeks in, and I just said, God, I'm in pain, and I know this isn't going to work. And it was like, okay, we'll do it for you. We'll make an appointment. And that was it. While like the next couple of days I went in.
Well, in Texas, especially, that's where I'm from. And as a poor person in Texas, like Planned Parenthood was one of the only places that would take my work insurance, that I could get medical stuff. I could get a checkup there if I needed an STD sweep. So like men were there constantly, not even utilizing something like Planned Parenthood for abortion resources and things like that. But and I know Texas more just because that's where I'm from. But the laws there currently are nuts. Like the financial penalties, the criminal aspect of, are you the doctor? Are you the person who drove to the clinic? Like they really are criminalizing these people, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, I believe, in some cases. Like
it's 250. Really if you were, it's $250,000, 10-year fine, loss of medical license for the physician. And if you are somebody who just was the Uber driver, that person could be technically fined 10 grand for taking someone to the clinic. And let it be clear, that Uber driver could literally be turned in because let's say he was having a drink at Starbucks, right? He got at Starbucks and he was looking at his phone and he got a passenger call that said, pick me up here going to Whole Women's Health Clinic. If somebody oversaw that on his shoulder, they could turn him in. Like that's how that law works.
Oh God.
And the way that law was crafted is that there's no legal recourse for the person who's ratted out. So the Uber driver can't sue the person who reported him or any of that. They wrote it that way, correct?
Yes, and he can't, if he has to get a lawyer to defend himself, he can't recoup the fees for the lawyer he had to get on that as well. And so and the fact that the Supreme Court upheld this as some kind of thing that you can do because it's nebulous, because it's civil, right? It's a citizen action. And so because it's not a law, it's a citizen action. That's why the Supreme Court was like, what do you want us to do? We didn't pass the law. It's not a law.
But that was the whole reason they structured it that way, was so it could not be knocked down through the normal. Because this is why Ted Cruz is such a fucking monster, right? Especially people in Ted, because he's Supreme Court. He's well read when it comes to the Supreme Court.
Well, he was a solicitor general, for the state of Texas. So he is actually, he's argued cases before the Supreme Court as well, before he was the Ted Cruz we all know and hate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my Christ.
God.
It's so ugly.
It's crazy.
And even thinking about the fact that they also framed it that way so that there's a chilling effect, right? Because it's so nebulous, everybody's like freaking out about, is this going to happen to me? Do I want to take this risk?
Yeah.
Physicians were like, every step of the way, I'd like to save your life, but I don't know if I can. So I'll tell you what, go to the parking lot, bleed out, and then drag your bloody ass self to the emergency room. And when your organs start failing, then that is when it is legally okay for us to intervene.
God almighty.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Who was the woman? It was just in the house, or maybe it was who's that horrible man from Louisiana? It's John Kennedy, right? That's his name.
Oh yeah, John. Well, there's John Kennedy. There's also Mike Johnson. There's many horrible men from Louisiana. So pick your poison, friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had like an atrocious approach to trying to, and there was a woman there who told a very traumatic story about having to have a late term abortion or 20 week, I think. And then he was going on a 21 week and just this very barbaric way to humiliate this woman. And it's wild that a mom would have to even jump through those hoops after going through that just to prove her point or prove her case or anything.
So awful.
I had a friend in Austin, Texas, who was a doula, but also worked at an abortion clinic. And she actually loved both of her jobs because she realized she was helping people at both places.
One of the things one could do as a volunteer at several clinics is become an abortion doula, which is you hold the hand of somebody who came in by themselves so that they aren't alone. It's a really rewarding, thing to do. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah,
I would do that in a second. I'd like to learn how to give abortions.
Oh, I can teach you.
I'd like to take a truck around.
I know how to do an aspiration abortion. And I can show you. Teach you on a papaya.
How do people get involved? Because it's obviously not just a woman's issue, obviously, but like what are ways that you look for people to volunteer and get activated other than voting and calling senators and all that and protesting?
So something that's pretty cool that we do at Abortion Access Front is we have a whole program that's called Operation Save Abortion. And it's like you can watch a 5-part series on sort of all the different buckets that you can sign up to. If like taking to the streets and direct action is your jam, you can learn how to do that. If doing abortion funding and dueling and helping clinics is your jam, you can do that. Policy, legislative, you can do that. But we have an activist calendar on that site. It's operationsaveabortion.com. And you can look through by state and see how you can help. And then also, if you just email programs at Abortion Access Front and say, can we talk? Because I'd love to talk through. We ask you questions that you might not think about what activism means, right? It's like, Are you good at
Mhm.
math? Are you organized? Are you, what's your skill set? And then we can hook you up with people who need skills. You just can't believe how many skills that you can, if there's a clinic that needs a
Mhm.
graphic designed for a thing they're doing, like that's helpful. There's 9 million ways that you can help. And we pair up people with clinics in need.
Mhm.
And that's pretty great. We also have a simple program called Adopt a Clinic that if you go to our website, you'll see it. And it's all the clinics and activists all over the country create wish lists. And sadly, we use Amazon because it's just the easiest way to access. And I hate to say it, but we do.
Sure.
But you can adopt a clinic and help them fulfill their needs. Anything from diapers for existing children to heating pads to snacks for staff. Like that's a really cool way to do it too. If you feel like I don't really have a lot of money, but maybe I could buy somebody some hand warmers while they're out there in the winter escorting patients, I'd like to be able to do that. So we hook up people. We try to meet them where they are as far as the time commitment they have, their abilities, whether, are you an able-bodied person? Are you a not able-bodied person? And we like to talk to people, because if you're thin-skinned, you don't want to escort because those monsters out there, like that's not your jam. But, do you want to hold somebody's hand?
Liz, have you done escorting where where the protesters of the escorts into the abortion clinic have like keyed you or anything?
I have been actually keyed. I've actually been what I call nailed. So,
oh my God.
In the early days, before there was laws against keeping protesters a certain amount of people away, it was one of the first times that I ever escorted, and we were locking hands, and I was wearing shorts. And so the first rule of escorting is you never wear shorts.
Liz, where were you?
I was in Minnesota. So the first rule of escorting is you never wear shorts, you always wear pants. And so what they would do is they would have those protest signs, and at the bottom of the sign, they would have a teeny tiny nail at the bottom of the sign, and they would walk through and just scrape your legs, right? So that you would let go of your grip. And then they would keep walking before you even know what happened. And then their secondary foot soldiers would come in once you lost the grip. And then they would take control of the door. And then they would plop down in front of the door until the cops came. So blocking people to come in. That was an old ass trick that you learn your lesson once. But like that's the kind of dirty tricks they do. And it's kind of astounding. But in our travels, and we've been as an organization, we've probably traveled to 35 states, hundreds of clinics, and one of the coolest happenstances that we did was, we stay in a town for like 4 or 5 days because we're fixing up the clinic and doing a show, and then helping at the clinic if they need escorting and stuff. And so we'd get together and talk, and these escort teams and these activists would just regale us with stories about the anti-abortion terrorism that happened. And they knew each other. They knew the names of these people, and they knew what church they went to and stuff, but nobody had ever written it down. Right. So it was kind of this stories. And so we were like, have you guys started any kind of database? And no one had. So we started collecting the names and the churches. And we now at Abortion Access Front have ended up with the largest anti-abortion database in the country. And we started joining their churches secretly and clandestinely. And so with fake Facebook names and stuff. And so when January 6th happened, we watched all of this chatter in all of these different churches. So we assigned people to monitor, and we busted 30 of these anti-abortion extremists with footage and stuff at the Capitol and turned them over to the FBI.
Shut up.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know.
Amazing.
Isn't that crazy? Incredible. Just like happenstance of just talking. We were like, well, let's organize this for people. And then we provide that database to clinics and to escorts. They can pull reports. And so it's like, and they'll send us information like, this guy, do you know this guy? And we've got all the pictures. And then if we don't know the guy, we throw him in the database. If we do know the guy, we're like, yeah, that's Bob Anderson. He got busted in North Carolina. And if he comes near your door, take a picture because we can get him arrested. So yeah.
Wow.
And Liz, is it mostly men?
Oh, honey,
Anti-abortion.
yes. Men and they're like, just sad wives. And here's the sad part. When it's not mostly men, it's men and their wives, and then they drag their children. And so you have these little kids.
They bring the kids
out there. And, and they're holding these signs that are like, we'll adopt your baby. I'm like, and then bring them to the abortion clinic when they're 5. You. No.
I mean, that's what kills me. I just think like, okay, men who aren't pro-choice or pro-woman, that's everything. That's everywhere. It's always been everywhere. But when women aren't pro-women, that kills me. And I think what women aren't thinking is that you're not only are you taking away a woman's right, you're taking away, to have an abortion, you're taking away their future, like whatever they had planned for themselves by making them have a kid and whatever, it's just, and I get really frustrated about this because my mom, as I always like say, was a single mom. And she felt like she had no choice. My dad was married. She was having an affair and got pregnant. But she had big plans that were then curtailed because, she had to support me and herself. So she didn't get to do anything she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I won't let her do anything she wants now.
It's also
Laura's still resentful that she's here.
Laura, I'm glad that you weren't aborted.
I used to ask my mom when I was like 12, can you get an abortion? Is it too late?
Is it retroactive?
Yeah, that's what I used to say. I said, say 12 years, not 12 weeks. Yeah. And she'd say it's too late.
But like, given the current situation, this is like a macro question, like nationally speaking, because it's all over the states are doing everything different since Roe v. Wade was overturned. What does like the big long game solution or next chapter look like? Because does there have to be a case that goes to the Supreme Court to get it back on the other side, or does it stick to where it's just states' rights and that's where we're going to leave it? Like, what do you see as the next steps after Roe v. Wade was overturned?
It's so complicated because while it's really exciting to have these states, voting to codify abortion into their state constitutions, that's just not enough because everybody deserves the right to abortion. And also, if you're not going to vote out the monsters that make these laws in the first place, you're just going to be in a cyclical hell. There's a case going before the Supreme Court next in the end of March that is going to challenge whether or not the abortion pill was expanded too quickly and whether or not this old ass law, this is wild, y'all. So this is where we're at. They're deciding 2 things. One, whether or not the FDA rushed through these expansions of the abortion pill and should we roll it back to only being able to take it up to 7 weeks and having to do it in person, which would literally be a 7-week abortion ban and be terrible. But the worst part is they're also considering a law that has been on the books since 1873 called the Comstock Act, where this busybody man in the Grant administration decided he was real mad about amoral things being sent through the mail. He literally, this is so typical projection, right? Fat, ugly, unfuckable white guy who is just a citizen.
Yeah.
Was mad. And so he decided that he would get all this shit shipped to him. Dildos, porn. I don't know what kind of dildos you got. Probably you got slivers from them back in 1873. But dildos.
Yeah, it was certainly made of wood.
Yes. Porn, all this stuff.
Victorian.
Yeah. And then, so he collects all this shit. And then he goes marching up to Washington, down to Washington, D.C. He's in New York with like, wheelbarrows or, I don't know, Wells Fargo wagons full of salacious materials, and then stands before Congress and he's like, look at all this shit you can get. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's making our nation terrible.
Oh my
God. They're like, you're right. Let's ban sending abortifacients, birth control, and dildos and porn through the mail. And he's like, thanks. See ya. It was never repealed. It's on the books. And because it's on the books, the right-wing people bringing this case before the Supreme Court is literally saying, we can't send this shit through the mail. It says right here, it's a federal law. So we should not be able to send abortion pills through the mail. The fact that the Supreme Court took up this argument and says it's a legitimate thing, we should all be terrified.
Like legal argument, right?
Right.
But that is
but when you think about it too, like the senator who was most adamant against gay marriage, and then like a month later who was blowing guys in the bathroom stall of the Greyhound station. It's kind of, you know who I'm talking about?
No, but those are my favorite kind of Republicans. It's always them. But
it is.
Let's keep it to the bathroom stalls in the Greyhound bus station.
Yes.
Keep it there.
But they did the exact same thing when the Supreme Court sided with gay marriage and the states were freaking out. What they did I'll reference Ted Cruz again. A lot of people said he should have been disbarred for telling people to just ignore the Supreme Court ruling. But what they did was they looked up this old law that was on the books from slave days where the racist southern states didn't want to recognize interracial marriages or out-of-state marriages where the laws were allowed in the North. So when a black and white couple came to Texas, they're like, we don't want to honor this. So they fell back on those laws from the 1800s that said, oh, look, we don't have to, because people were getting gay married in Boston and SF, right? Those were the two places. So they were scared but that's what they fell on. I was like, are we not recognizing the context that law was written was steeped in racism and slavery and inhumane actions? And that's what your legal defense is. But that's how they play.
When they overturned Roe, Clarence Thomas wrote in his opinion, abortion is not protected under the 14th Amendment because it's not mentioned in the Constitution. And he actually continued to say, neither birth control is not mentioned in the Constitution, marriage equality is not mentioned in the Constitution, and we should go back and revisit those things. Now, I don't know how he feels about interracial marriage, but my guess is that Clarence Thomas might want to ban interracial marriage because he doesn't know how to divorce that monster of a wife that he's married to. It's like, oh, bitch, Jamie.
Right.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I can't divorce you. I'm scared of you, but I'm going to make our marriage illegal.
Oh my God, he married a Wookiee. That woman is the scariest fucking person. And she's a goddamn, excuse me, I curse so much when I get into it. She's an insurrectionist like that.
I call her the ginsurrectionist.
Totally glossed over.
Yeah.
But even all that, like her messaging people and organizing with stuff, and that was really glossed over in that. I think the insurrection in general has been sort of glossed over, but her participation in particular.
And then the fact that he doesn't recuse himself on all matters of election fraud or insurrection. It's like, what? We don't talk. It's like, I bet you don't.
I bet
you. How else could you be together so long?
I bet you don't.
Here's what's crazy. Why aren't you pro-choice? That's what I want to know, Liz. You've gone a long way.
You know what, you guys?
Change your mind.
Wrong?
I've seen the light. And
oh God Almighty!
I love the women who call themselves pro-life, who are postmenopausal, and they'll get on stage at every pro-life convention, and they'll be like, I've had 4 abortions, and I've regretted every one of them. And it's like, oh my God, your I got mindness is so intense, and they're always putting these women up. I'm like, you could have stopped having abortions. Like, nobody forced you.
Liz, I thought where you were going with that was it's easy for you to say it's fine for other women to have kids now that you can't.
Oh, it is. That is their whole thing.
Just because you can't. Yeah, that kind of shit.
I can't have another abortion and I regret all the ones I had, so now I'm some icon? What?
I want somebody to be stuck with a kid. I can't be.
I'm your kid.
No, I'm talking about them.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I know.
No, I was just asking about you're a comedian and a writer, but also an activist. Have those always been hand in hand and together? Because I see you as all 3 of those things kind of simultaneously.
Yes, she's always been incredibly smart and outspoken.
Where
and
did you meet Laura? I want to know that. Where did y'all first meet? I want to know.
In New York,
Boston.
Right? Oh shit, you're kidding me.
I think Boston. Yeah, because I would come to Boston. And sometimes I would stay with Dana Gould and Dan Spencer. Sometimes I would stay with Janine. And you were friends with Janine at the time. And I think we met in Boston. And then we both moved to New York sort of. That's maybe I'm wrong on that, but we were living in Chelsea, and just like I just always loved Laura, and I always loved Laura's work, and I was like, this is great. I felt like safe that the future of comedy was going to be good if Laura Kightlinger was in it.
Oh, good Lord. You're the sweetest. You too.
No.
And Liz, I was thinking like, okay, you do benefits and stuff. And because I'm really lazy and can't drive, I mean, I could go to a clinic, I'm sure, and help. And I'm going to say I'm going to. No, but you know what I was thinking? You probably already are doing this, but I would like your East Coast ass to come out here and we'll do some big show event for Abortion Access Front on Mother's Day. Thank you for not forcing me to be a mother event.
So here's the thing. I don't know when Mother's Day is, but I'm going to be in the West Coast from the 8th until around the 16th. And so maybe
of May?
Yeah. And I think
we have to then.
Okay. And also, yeah, because that would be really fun. Thank you for not making me be a Mother's Day.
But we'll co-host this thing, and Daniel will feature. We'll find a theater and raise some money.
Is the lady's name Marsha Blackburn? She's the rep from Tennessee.
That is a lady's name from Tennessee.
Right. I hate the way she talks because the way she says because she always says because, like, well, we can't get anything done because the Democrats are, like, I hate the way she says that word. She's atrocious. I'm sorry. She makes me
she is atrocious. And she has that because voice, and that is like I'll never forget when, like, this is taking us back a million years. But when Anita Hill was being grilled by the Senate, there was this Southern senator named Howell Heflin from shockingly Alabama. And I'll never forget him literally cross-examining her and saying, Ms. Hill, are you a scorned woman? And the way he said
God,
scorned,
it gives me
are you a scorned woman? And it was like,
whoa. Joe Biden did too.
Joe Biden was not nice.
Oh, Joe
Biden was one of the biggest assholes.
Never forget Joe Biden not apologizing to Anita Hill even.
Liz names names. She knows where the bodies are buried, because I like how you feel about, like, Nicole Wallace on MSNBC and all these kind of, like, defected Republicans who were trying to dig their way out of. I cannot believe that. Okay,
but you're so good at it too. I mean, you know what's going on.
I was in Santa Barbara last night. I was at a show. The comedian before me, and it's Santa Barbara, right? The comedian before me was doing all political stuff because he was like an impressionist, right? So George W. Bush came up and he was like, I liked him, which is such an old joke anyway, right? It's like 20 years too late. And then this one lady in the audience goes, he was fun. And I just remember, I was like, that bitch doesn't even remember the Iraq War or like any of that. But
you know it was fun? Abu Ghraib. Hilarious. A riot.
Yeah. That
was fun.
So
but
fun. Lindy England. So fun.
Oh.
But I am truly unsure of what's going to happen this year. And I'm not optimistic, but I totally think it's up for grabs. And I'm very, very, very afraid of one of the outcomes.
I think what it's going to come down to is who's just not going to turn out for Trump versus who's not going to turn out for Biden. Because young progressives are mad for about a lot of reasons. They're mad about this sort of blanket co-signing on Israel. You know, they don't want their tax dollars and bombs bombing civilians, and people are mad about that, right? And so I don't think those people are going to vote for Trump, but I think there's a real chance they're not going to vote for Biden. Conversely,
I agree.
That you have those there's still that group of sort of Nikki Haley Republicans who they've been polling, who 30% of them said, if Nikki Haley's not the nominee, I'm not voting at all. And so what are those numbers of people who are disenfranchised with both people? I think it's going to come down to that. And it is really worrisome. I feel worrisome also. I just feel also that, like, you know, I get very tired of being told by establishment people that this was they just told us you have to vote for Biden because he's the only person that can beat Trump. You know, everybody just shamed us into thinking that. And even just recently I posted on Instagram, like, please say the word abortion, because when you don't, it makes somebody like me like feel shamed. And that's not cool, right? And all these people screaming at me saying, how dare you during this time? And then one guy said, shame on you for posting that. Literally, unironically, he literally shamed me for saying, I really don't want to feel shamed.
Yeah.
And so in so many issues, so whether you're trans, and it's like, your issue will come, or you're queer, all of it is, please don't make waves so that we can get these people elected. And at what point aren't we just valued? At what point, why should I have to shut up, and why shouldn't the presidential candidates or politicians be the ones that have to sell themselves to us and make us like, what is your policies? Why, because it's terrible. Sending the woman out, the vice president, it's basically send the woman out to talk about woman things.
Yeah.
And it's like, gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gross.
I found out not too recently that while I was working on this job, I found out I was getting paid less than the men. And I had the same job as they did, same title. And what I kept hearing was, just be grateful you have a job. And so it's like, okay, so you're saying by grateful, you mean just shut up. Don't stick up for yourself. Don't say anything about it. Don't tell other women that we're getting paid less. Just be grateful you have a job. And in that context, I will say, I am not grateful. You know what I mean? It's like, I know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Be happy with less. Be happy that you're doing something, but you're never going to get what men get. And just
also,
when
Laura,
they give the only other option is zero.
The tomatoes you buy at the grocery store don't cost less. The gas you put in your tank doesn't cost less. So what the fuck?
Absolutely, that's a great point. Yeah.
Do you mix much in like TikTok and social media on like a political level? Do you see like the conversations and things that are happening in those circles with like,
yes,
there's live debates with people, would Trump or Biden, or just even Democrat, whatever the issue is, they make it a black and white, like a yes, no.
The ones that TikTok to me is the platform where I have seen the most productive discourse in the comments, where people are very much engaged and telling their stories. And like Abortion Access Front's TikTok is very, like, I highly recommend following it, because we do a lot of stories. And like, we posted about why people have abortions later in pregnancy and did a video about it. And then people said, I had to have this because of this. And then other people were saying, like, I never thought of it that way. I didn't know. And then of course you get trolls, but for the most part, you really do get people who want to learn and want to share their stories. And I see real change, real activism, and really smart people, really doing good work there, in ways that, the classic example, just as we watch the State of the Union and that harebrained trad wife senator from Alabama, right?
Did you see that?
I didn't. I couldn't watch any of it.
So really fast, let me interrupt. So we were just doing stuff at home, and that we'd already watched the State of the Union, but then she came on in the background. My boyfriend is not really that politically activated, and so the majors he doesn't necessarily know. So I could just hear her. And I was like, this sounds Looney Tunes. This is so kooks. And so then I started tuning in and watching her, and then he came in, and we're both looking at this, and I was like, this is one of those moments. Like, this is really one of those moments.
I have to see it.
But go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you. But
so,
yes, watching
it's like, first of all, it's on International Women's Day. And there she is in a kitchen with this giant cleavage cross. It's like, Jesus, take my cleavage. And so
women are here in the kitchen where we're supposed to be.
Where we're supposed to be. And then she's literally, I'm a mom, and Joe Biden's America is making me afraid. And it was so weird.
Oh my God.
Yes. But,
oh my God.
And then she started talking about the dangers at the border. And I went down to this town, and I was sitting on a panel, and I heard the story of this woman who was raped, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this TikTok journalist broke down her story, track down the woman. It was a story that was relayed to her about a woman who was raped during the Bush administration in Mexico.
Yes.
God.
And it's like,
not even in the
bitch, what? And so, I mean, but that's the whole thing. When these corporate journalists are not doing their jobs, really smart, interesting people have come forth on TikTok to fill in the blanks. Like they're really like, you can just see. And I remember being this way when I first got excited about politics. Randy Credico, who I know Laura and I know very well. Daniel, I don't know if you know Randy Credico. He's kind of off the rails right now, but he is.
Liz, you saw the documentary, right?
Yes.
On Randy's 60 Spins Around the Sun?
Yes.
I don't remember if you saw it or not. Yeah.
Yes, you did a
That's
great
what we're talking
job,
about. Okay,
friend. But Randy said to me, and this is the smartest thing anyone's ever said to me, when you read an article, if you do not gloss over a name you don't know, research that name, and then in every article you find about that person, learn those people, because that's going to bring you to the truth. Because so often you'll just read an article where it's like, you know, President so-and-so met with Bob Anderson. And then you're like, and then you just keep reading. You don't really look up Bob Anderson. And then you find out Bob Anderson is like, you know, somebody's been convicted of child molestation. You're like, whoa, like just like Bob Anderson, the shoe clerk, is also Bob Anderson, the convicted child molester. What the, you know, and TikTokers are really bringing that stuff to the forefront, and it's great.
Yeah.
Liz, I'm impressed with your patience on yet another level now. You're still in touch with Randy Credico?
No. No, when he, no, during the 2016 elections, he was like shitting all over me for voting for Hillary. And I was like, hey, Randy, you and your privileged ass can go fucking die in a fire. I'm like out here every day doing the work, and I will not have you, who lived on my couch for free, telling me that somehow I am part of the problem. I just won't have it. Like take it elsewhere. Take it to the Nicaraguan embassy. Take it wherever you need to take it, but do not take it to me. I did not call for you. Do not come for me.
You know, when we did the documentary, at one point, a lot of his work with the Rockefeller drug laws was out of like guilt, because he was a white person who could do coke and not go to jail.
Yes.
And everybody of every other color, of course, goes to jail for that, or did. And so at one point, and I like pills too, but at one point, Randy, when we were doing the thing in Tulia, we were in Tulia, Texas.
I was about to say the Rockefeller drug laws in Tulia, Texas are thank you for like just bringing that attention to everybody, because those two stories are amazing.
That Daniel, I don't know but Randy was kind of talking about the Tulia 46, where all of these Black people were arrested without evidence, no evidence. They were just taken out of their homes and arrested, you know, on drug charges with no evidence whatsoever. And it's an all-white jury, and they say, well, didn't you want to know if, you know, the prosecutor is asking, well, or actually the reporter was asking, didn't you want to know if how these people were found with all these drugs? Like how did they get them? And they go, no, we trusted the lawyer. We, you know, so they didn't want any evidence. Anyway, but while we were there in our rooms, Randy storms into my room, and we just got to Tulia, and he said, the Texas Rangers are after us. Hide the tapes. And all the tape we had was of like an obelisk that said Tulia, you know, and a cowboy boot. And I'm like, he's got me like all like hiding shit. I was like, wait, we don't even have any. We have no footage. Like he always has to trump it up to like, or to make it like bigger than it is, like all the intrigue and bullshit. And I said, we don't have anything. They can come in. And at that point, I realized that he took I had my pills in my little pill caddy. He took all of the pills out of my pill caddy and took them. And I said, and by the way, if the Texas Rangers are after us, they can you and you won't get pregnant because you took my birth control pills, you fucking asshole. He took all my pills out of my thing.
Classic.
Texas will fuck you up, Laura. Texas will fuck you up.
Classic.
God almighty. But just the stress. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm sorry. That isn't going to make any sense to anybody. But
where do you think the like I mean, it's a national issue. It's a state's issue. But like, what states are kind of in the most desperate shape right now, do you think, in regards to access to abortion and laws and policies being passed to restrict rights?
Well, I mean, that's a loaded question because right now there's 13 states that have zero access to abortion right off the bat. Like, no.
Wow.
And then there's states that have these exceptions. And as we've seen the exceptions play out, they don't work because if a lawyer, not your doctor, has set up a rule for how you prove you are the exception, it's a recipe for failure and death and destruction. So, and also then you've got states that have available access, but those states are overrun. Last year in Minnesota, 30% of the abortions provided were from people from Texas. So think about you being a person from Texas, how many states you had to travel through to because you couldn't get appointments, because as you move around and you're trying to find a place to go, if there is abortion access, those appointments can take you past your gestational limit of needing care. And then that means you go from a $500 abortion to a $5,000, $10,000 abortion. And you don't have that kind of money, right? And so right now we're waiting for the Florida Supreme Court to rule on whether or not their 15-week ban is unconstitutional. If they say it's unconstitutional, Florida will remain as the bastion in the South. But if they say, nope, you know what, it's perfectly fine, it's constitutional to have that ban. They also passed a 6-week ban. So what would happen is they would say the 15-week ban is fine. And then 30 days later, it would go to a 6-week ban, which would mean that if you live in between Texas and Florida and North Carolina, there is no abortion provision for you in the southern states. And Texas alone has 27 million women. So when you add up those numbers, we're talking about over 50 million women without access to care. And if the Supreme Court decides that the FDA was too hasty in expanding access to medication abortion, which a fact about medication abortion, since it's been on the market since 2000, I'm going to do a little quiz. Medication abortion has been on the market since 2000. 5.2 million people have used the abortion pill. How many deaths would you say have happened because of medication abortion with 5.2 million people using it?
None.
More than none.
100,000.
25 deaths in 5.2 million. So having said that, if the Supreme Court says, oh, it's unsafe, it's too rushed, we need to go back to the 2000 protocols, which would be 7 weeks and in person only, that's basically a 7-week abortion ban in the United States because most people use medication abortion. 53% of all abortions that happen in the US are with medication abortion. And because so many clinics have closed, in-clinic abortions aren't happening. And there's no clinics to prescribe the pills. So what do we do?
So wait, Liz, this is RU 486 that we're talking about.
Yep, this is what we're talking about. Yep, medication abortion is RU 486.
Now, I think that should be in gum machines outside pharmacies. And
I was going to say the water.
and cereal.
I like that.
So it's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know that I answered your question, Daniel, because it's like there's states that are terrible. There's states that are next level terrible. And then the states that are providing the care are so overloaded that it's everybody's really right now just desperate and scrambling.
Who are your heroes? Who motivates you? Who inspires you? I know you work with lots of like real people on the ground, but who are the people that Lizz Winstead looks up to?
You know, I guess I look up to the people who are providing the care at all costs. You know, as we speak today, and I don't know if you ever make mention of the day that you record your podcast, but today is Abortion Provider Appreciation Day. And it's chosen March 10th because Dr. David Gunn on this day was murdered in the parking lot of his clinic in 1993 on March 10th. So,
damn.
you know, I really look up
I remember that.
Yeah. I really look up to people who, I don't know a lot of people who understand profoundly the risk of being murdered to help somebody keep them on the path to their own destiny, and get up and do it every day. And so for me, it's really those people who risk it all and their families risk it all. An abortion provider who is one of my heroes named Renee Shelley, and she lives in Michigan. And there's a documentary coming out about the work of Abortion Access Front. It's right now on the festival circuit called No One Asked You.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And so in the documentary, they filmed me just hanging out with Renee and talking. And Renee said to me, every house I've ever lived in, I never hang curtains in my house because if somebody wants to murder me, I want to make sure they hit me and not my kids.
Oh my God.
And so that's, I know it's heavy, but like, and think about being like, those are the risks, but I don't want anybody who can't parent to be forced into a life. And I'm going to make that be my life's work. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
for sure. Did you meet Ann Richards ever? Or did you ever meet Molly
I got
Ivins?
to interview Ann Richards when I was on Air America Radio, which was awesome, but I never met Molly
Fantastic.
Ivins. And I'm like so bummed that I never met Molly
I butted
Ivins.
in a couple conversations. I bullied my way in just to meet her a couple times. I got to wait on her. I was a server at a restaurant. She'd come in. So I got to serve. Yes. And she was always reading. She was always alone and she was always reading. And it was pre-cancer, but then also when she was going through chemo, so she had no hair. Couldn't be nice. Like everything was just epic. She inspires me a lot. Because I know you work with Cecile Richards, obviously, who we were talking about earlier. When did you meet? And when have you met with Cecile for the first time?
When I did the crazy traveling around with my dogs, and did I tell you the story about traveling around the country with my dogs in a van?
No.
Okay. I couldn't remember if I said it. So the whole reason I got into this nuttiness, I was finishing writing my book and I was in Minnesota and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do next in my career. I don't know if anyone's ever going to hire me again. I was just kind of at a standstill. And it was when Wendy Davis was in Texas on the floor of the Texas House fighting this draconian abortion law, and she was filibustering. And it wasn't on the news. I was watching
Austin.
it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I started live tweeting it.
Oh.
I started live tweeting it.
Yeah.
And then I met all these Texas activists and they were like, then they started tweeting me and then it started trending. And then finally the networks picked it up. But I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And then I did some research and I found out that that same Texas law was written by, it was model legislation written by anti-abortion extremists, and it was happening in 26 other states. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I called up Planned Parenthood and I said, I'm driving in my van with my 2 dogs back to New York. I want to drive around the country and meet people in your clinics and do fundraisers. And they were like, do we need to call the authorities? Like, it just sounded like it's kind of a weird pitch. I'm in a van with my dog. But
Yeah.
So I drove all over America for 18 months by myself with my dogs and raised money for independent clinics and Planned Parenthoods. And I visited these clinics. And that's when I found out, like, no one ever came to visit them. They didn't have community support. And so then I finally met Cecile Richards when I got back to New York. And she was like, so you're the crazy vagabond who's been driving around the country. And I said, yeah, it's me.
That's really brave too, Liz. It's commendable. It's incredible.
Especially if you knew my dogs.
It also seems dangerous.
They were useless.
I saw one in the background. I saw a puppy milling around in the background.
Oh, yeah. That's
Very
Mr.
cute.
Funk. He's a new one. The other 2 have died.
That's a good name. Mr. Funk?
Mr. Funk.
Oh.
Or you can call
I
him,
love that name.
Margaret Cho calls him Postmaster Funk.
Yes. That's so good. Well, Liz, you're such a hero to me. I feel like you're in the same lineage of the people I like, loved and respected. I mention Ann Richards and Molly Ivins all the time because they're truly like heroes. They're such great writers and well-spoken activists, and can be political, I find, without being like divisive. I'm an escalator, so I'm not always the best messenger.
I mean, I'm an escalator too. I just decide who I want to make sure the bridge is burned. Like I want to put gas on that bridge. I want to light a match to that bridge, and I just want to be clear. I don't want them taking up space in my head. If you're not fungible or movable, I don't know. Like that's who I want to. That's who I want to hopefully like convince or inspire is somebody who's like just hasn't really thought about it in a way to be like, you're right. Oh, I can do that. Okay, maybe now I will do a thing. Or be part of a thing, because the haters. I don't got time for people who want me killed. I don't have time.
And I think we have to bring the word abortion into the vernacular. It has to be more common. And what do you think about this abortion the musical?
I like Abortion the musical. So I have, which I will send you, Laura. I'll send you. We made shirts that say abortion.
I want to plug your book too.
Abortion Yacht Club.
Okay, go ahead, Liz.
Abortion Yacht Club.
What? That's amazing.
I'm sending you the shirt. They're great. I designed them. We have like the Mifepristone Lodge. It looks like an old timey lodge. Like I like putting abortion in shit that's all over the place. 100%.
That's great. That's great.
Well, abortion
Liz,
is what's for
I'm
dinner.
Serious about this. Jesus, I was behind this. I mean, by the way, too, I think it's never like such a fun. It's not like it's an easy, like fun decision to get an abortion. Of course, people know that, but I was behind a van that said "I heart abortion," and I was like, I kind of want to follow them because I appreciate that. Like, just being out there and saying that. But
I love
Liz,
I heart
abortion.
abortion.
We need to do May 12th is Mother's Day, so we could do a thank you for not forcing women to be mothers on Mother's Day event, or I was thinking we could, or even you can be a mother without giving birth by adopting the 64,000 orphans that are here because of
400,000. There's zillions.
Oh my God!
Or you could adopt a clinic.
That's kind of a long title.
Or you could adopt a clinic with our program on Mother's Day. But I think this would be fun. And if it was
on Mother's Day.
All right, we're going to talk more about this. I like it very much.
Well, okay, we'll go over. I'm going to email you and arrange all this stuff.
Yes, so I'm very excited about all of it. Also, I want to do, Laura,
that's amazing.
Get together with a whole bunch of people, like creative types, our comedy friends, and just have them over and talk about like, here's all the shit we can do that's like low lift.
Yeah.
Because it's not always just performing. Like if you're at home, so we can do that too. We can have like a fun little
party.
Yay. I love it.
I love that term low lift. Yeah.
Low lift.
Well, okay, so Liz.
You're amazing, Liz.
You're amazing.
So
Shut up.
Talking with us. I'm so glad we got to see you.
Look, I'm so excited because here's the deal. I did not know the two of you were doing a podcast together. And I was like, oh my God, I just met Daniel and hung out and it was so fun. And then to reconnect with you, Laura, it's just like, and I thank you for thinking of me too. Like, it really is nice to be thought of for like, hey, put your voice on tape for this thing I'm doing, or come be on our podcast.
Yeah,
it's really cool. I really appreciate it.
Liz Winstead
you're
is
awesome.
a voice. You're
amazing.
A voice. You're an amazing performer and activist.
And I'm so glad we get to reconnect too.
Me too.
Big time. Thank you for being here, Liz.
Thanks so much. I love you guys.
Oh, wait, Liz, where do we get your book?
Oh, that's a good question. It's called Liz Free or Die. And I don't know. I don't know if it's still in print, but like feel free. But honestly, what I'd love for y'all to do is as this film is making its rounds in the festivals, and I'm hoping that when I'm in LA, there'll be a screening. It's called No One Asked You. And you can go to nooneaskedyoudoc.com and you can find out all about all of the festivals that it's going to be in. It's in a whole bunch of them. And maybe it's coming near you, but like it gives you a really good indication of like what we do and then how you can plug in.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
That would be terrific.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you, Liz Winstead.
Thank you so much. I love you guys.
Okay, we'll text you. Okay.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay.